I don't know what it is with Raider and Cowboy fans, but they all look like they're AI generated. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Moving the Goalpost. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. You can follow us across social media at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Johnny at Montalbano NY. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on YouTube.com/ETB Network, and you can listen to Moving the Goalpost wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe. And this show is presented by Playback. Stay tuned for later in the show to find out more. All right. So the reason I wasn't on unnecessary wagers yesterday is because I was literally making my own unnecessary wagers. So I didn't need real unnecessary wagers. I didn't have to do a podcast about it because I was in Vegas. And I just got back from Vegas and I flew in this morning. I flew back in this morning. I was there for the Raiders-Cowboys game. I don't know what it is with Raider and Cowboy fans, but they all look like they're AI generated. Like,
could it be Allegiant Stadium that does that?
Like, they're AI. Those fan bases are crazy.
Well, I mean, I could see that. I mean, the Raiders, between going from Oakland to Vegas, still making that transition, and how they've been the last several years, and the Cowboys, who haven't seemed to get over the hump, probably been the most mid team in the NFL the last several years. So I could see the frustration or the craziness there. I mean, I've experienced it firsthand with my own team, how crazy everybody's lost their absolute mind, but that's a whole other story.
But think about it though, like the Raiders and Cowboys have to be the two fan bases that have the most inexplicable fans. What I mean by that is it's like it's easy to figure out that I'm a Jet fan or that you're a Giant fan, like because of where we're from. But like Cowboy and Raider fans, it's like you ask a lot of Raider and Cowboy fans how they became fans of that team when they're not even from that area. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like the Raiders and Cowboys are two teams that just where their fans just make no sense. They're scattered all over the place.
I don't know if I'd say that because I mean the Cowboys have been known forever. I wouldn't say they're classified as America's team anymore, but they're known as America's team. They could be a fan based on brand.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly my point.
Like, we're just saying two different ways.
They're a branding that, like, if you talk, like, you would meet a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans who are not from Texas, that might be from like New York or wherever. And same thing with the Raiders, where people are fans of those teams. Where it's like, how did you become a fan of that team? That's the point I'm making.
Yeah, maybe name history behind the two franchises has something to do with that too. There's a few factors as to why that could be.
And they also used to, depending on how old you are. I mean, I think the Cowboys were very good in the '90s. So
I grew up. I grew up on the Aikman Cowboy teams for sure. So
I was not alive for the Aikman Cowboy team, so I'm not used to the Cowboys being good.
It's actually my very early days of football. I mean, obviously, I was born in '90, so by the time I got into football for the very first time, it was in the Aikman days.
Yeah, and the thing with Vegas, one thing I can tell you about Vegas is the sports. I don't know if you've ever been, but I'm sure you have.
Been a long time.
The sports book in Vegas is actually a great place to watch college football, even more than the NFL.
I've heard the same thing. I have heard that, yes.
And the reason I say that is because for college football, they show all of the games, but the casino is not nearly as crowded. You can easily find a seat during college football. In the NFL, it's too crowded. You have to, if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to like mark your seat so nobody takes it. College football is totally different. Like it's not nearly as crowded, and they're showing every game that you actually want to see. So that's why I think it's a great place for college football. It's also great for me in general because I sleep through most of the college football games on a normal day. So and by the way, my college football picks were unbelievable. I killed it in college football. I made 11 bets in Vegas, on college football. I won 10 of them.
Nice.
Can you guess the one I got wrong?
I would say, was it Notre Dame? Over
No.
Pitt and Notre Dame
No,
covering.
I was riding higher Notre Dame. In fact, if I woke up a little earlier, I would have won even more money betting on the games. But I woke up too late and couldn't get my bets in.
Okay, so this would have to be like a night game or something, right? Then I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to. I can't figure out which one. Which
it was a big SEC game. Big SEC game.
Bama.
Yeah,
Bama
that was the only one I got wrong.
Yeah, I would have went the same way. I would have taken Bama. So
that was the only one I got wrong, and that's going to be a whole shakeup in the SEC. We'll get into that. Yeah. And my NFL picks were good, but they weren't quite as good as my college picks. I had the Chiefs -4, and the Chiefs are now 5-5, and people are saying that the Chiefs are in a lot of trouble. Ironically enough, it's a lot of the same people who also think the games are rigged in favor of the Chiefs, that think the Chiefs are at risk of missing the playoffs. I don't know how to square that circle. But the Chiefs lost to the Broncos. I think, if anything, very wrong about Denver. I thought the Broncos would be a mediocre team this year. I was very much wrong. They're now, 9-2?
9-2.
9-2. And I was in a lot of those wins, they didn't look good. Like, I would not have said the Broncos were a red hot team during that winning streak. Like, I think you could have a winning streak and also have some bumps in the road. There were a lot of bumps in the road for Denver. They weren't red hot the whole time during the winning streak, but they figured out a way to win. Kind of like how the Chiefs last year were not red hot during their winning streak, but they did figure out ways to win. But this is a win that I really just can't say that they didn't look good. Look, you can't beat the Chiefs without playing well. And I got to give them credit for that. And there's a much greater chance now that they're going to end up winning the division. In terms of the Chiefs being in trouble, as people are saying, I don't really think they're in that much trouble. They're in trouble of not winning the division, if you count that as being in trouble. But I don't think they're in great risk of missing the playoffs. The Chiefs, first of all, they play in the AFC. The AFC absolutely sucks. Like, there's very likely going to be a mediocre team that ends up getting into the playoffs. I mean, the Ravens might end up winning their own division. Lamar Jackson was out for 6 weeks or something. Like, he was out for a long time, and the Ravens still might end up winning their division. So the AFC is just a disaster. And I don't think the Chiefs are really in that much trouble, especially when their schedule also does get a fair bit easier throughout the rest of the season. So the Chiefs did lose to the hold on a second. Wait, let me just pull it up. So the Chiefs are currently 5-5. Their remaining 7 games, they play the Colts. Okay, that's a difficult game, but they do then play the Cowboys, the Texans, the Chargers at home as compared to in Brazil, the Titans, the Broncos at home this time, and the Raiders. So I think they're going to win most of those games. I think they're going to end up splitting with the Chargers and the Broncos. I think they're going to end up, and they're probably going to end up beating the Cowboys, the Texans, the Titans, and the Raiders. They could end up winning 6 of their next 7 games. So I could see them, there's still a strong possibility that the Chiefs are a 10 or 11 win team, and they're going to end up making the playoffs. And I don't even really think it's going to matter that much that they're not even going to get home field, because they're just so experienced and they're so good at that time. I think people forget. Sports fans have short-term memory. A lot of really good NFL teams kind of sleep through Thanksgiving in the first part of the season. I'm old enough to remember, and so are you. You might not remember this detail, but I remember it vividly. There was a year when it was in 2016. It was an Aaron Rodgers Packers team. To start the season, they went 4-6 and then won their remaining 6 games and ended up making it to the NFC Championship game, and then lost to the Falcons, and that was a 28-3 year. And, a lot of really good teams end up doing that, because in the NFL, teams are built for late November and December and January. Like in basketball, good teams are built for April, May, and June. And I just think in the end, it's not going to matter that much.
I think you're making great points all across the board. And I agree with you on a lot of things. Now, I think what you were talking about on the Chiefs in trouble, I think the division is pretty much gone from them. But this feels like a kind of year where you just get in. And I think we've seen that a lot in the NFL. Just get in. If you're playing hot towards the second half of the year, then you can turn into something. You're talking to a fan who's a Giants fan that the 2 Super Bowl runs that they won, were they the best team for the first half of the year beyond? No. In fact, when they won in 46, they were 7-7 before they turned it on late and ultimately propelled that into a Super Bowl win back in Super Bowl 46. So, but I think, though, when you're looking at the Chiefs here, I don't think they're in trouble of making the playoffs. This game on Sunday is going to be a huge swing for that because, I mean, the Colts are a really good team. They're going to be coming off of a bye week, but I think they can be had. And I think the Chiefs, and that's what made the Bronco win actually was probably one of the more impressive wins of the season because no J.K. Dobbins, no Pat Surtain, and defensively they put on a clinic against the Chiefs. Yeah. So I thought that was very impressive. But I'm with you. I haven't been really impressed with the Broncos, even though they are 9-2. But their wins Sunday against the Chiefs, there were actually some pretty good things. And I just feel like a lot of this, and it's something we've documented a lot this season, is timing. Timing is going to be very important when we talk about these games or these teams. When we look at like the teams right now in the AFC, like the Colts and stuff, the Colts right now are playing very well, but they're also very, very healthy. Now, they suffer a big injury along the way, then this whole conversation changes. You know, Daniel Jones, the last couple of games has not been playing well. He has 7 interceptions in his last couple of games. So as well as they can be had. But I think we're saying there's other Chiefs in trouble because this is not a familiar territory for them. But if you remember what I said to you when we did our AFC preview show for Football Forecast, I didn't say that the Chiefs were not going to make it back, but I felt like this was going to be the toughest road because of their schedule. And you documented all the games they had played to start the year.
The schedule's been a gauntlet so far.
And the Colts are still very good. The Texans defensively are very, very challenging. And, you know, Cowboys are starting to maybe get on a little bit of a heater. I'm not ready to say that just yet. And the rest of those teams in that division, like the Broncos and the Chargers, who they still have to play, it all depends on where they are and where they're going to become when they play them in terms of, you know, possible playoff positioning and stuff. So we'll see. I'm not ready to say they're in trouble. This is definitely a different feeling for the Chiefs. But I feel like they're trying to knock them down the same way that everybody's trying to knock the Patriots down, and when they had the opportunity to, and that they still rebounded and got pretty far.
Yeah. Like they're being held. I think they're being held to a higher standard than the Packers and the Seahawks because between the two of them, they've only won those two, like the Aaron Rodgers Packers teams and the Russell Wilson Seahawks teams. Between the two of them, they only won a combined 2 Super Bowls. I mean, the Chiefs have won more than that combined. So, like, I understand why people have like this strong reaction to the Chiefs struggling, but a lot of it really is just bad luck compared to last year. Like last year, they didn't look like, I don't think the Chiefs look that much worse this year than they did last year. It's just that their schedule is tougher. And from the way that the Chiefs played last year against some bad teams, they'd be struggling this year too. And
yeah, it's a great point. Yeah.
And I think that a lot of good teams in the first half of the season were playing tough schedules. Like in the first 4 games of the season this year, the Chiefs played the Chargers, and they were healthy at the time. The Chargers aren't healthy now, but you know, when the Chargers had an offensive line, that's a tough game. The Eagles and the Ravens, all in the first 4 games of the season. And it was a similar thing with the Ravens too. I mean, the Ravens played the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs all in the first 4 games of the season. Like this seems to be a little bit more of a theme this year, Whereas like people were like, I feel like they're purposely giving good teams tougher schedules earlier in the season, which I think is a good idea in a lot of ways because it makes the first part of the season a little bit more interesting. But that's why the Ravens started off 1-3 because their schedule was just so tough. If they lost all three of those games scattered throughout the season, it wouldn't have mattered that much.
Fair point. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And also not only that, but just the way they were playing too. Like we talked about the Ravens defense, the Chiefs. I mean, Mahomes does not look like vintage Mahomes, but you wonder, with all the extra playoff games and stuff, maybe that is starting to catch up on him just a little bit. I mean, it's almost like he's played a whole nother entire season with all the playoff games that he's had.
Yeah. But, in the end, it's probably not like if the Chiefs end up winning another Super Bowl, it's just not going to matter in the end. And I could definitely see that being the case. Like if anybody can play on the road, I think it's going to be this Chiefs team.
And because they've showed it before.
And by the way, there's going to be there's a lot of teams that they could go on the road and play, and they would be favorites.
Yeah.
So
like last week.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're favorites again this week.
And by the way, the Bears, they won 7 of their last 8. And it really just doesn't feel like it at all. Like it really seems like they're like stumbling, which by the way, if you can figure out how to win games, that's a skill in and of itself. But the Bears, like they're very in a weird, is it just me or are they chaotically winning a lot of these games? Like you watch the Bears play and they don't look like that great of a team, but they are winning games.
Well, yeah, because I mean they're coming back in a lot of these games. They're putting themselves in big deficits. They're getting some very fortunate things. It's not like It's not like they're not lighting it up. I mean, the only game they really lit it up was the game against the Bengals, and they still gave up 42 points to them. I mean, it was really spoke more volumes about the Bengals and how bad they are defensively. But I mean, look, in the NFL, a win is a win, so it doesn't really matter. Now, maybe that gets exposed against some very good teams, and maybe once you get into the playoffs, that gets exposed. And I think, ironically, it almost feels like what we were talking about with the Chiefs last year, how they didn't look great a lot of the time, but got wins in advance. I think that's ultimately what happened in the Super Bowl was that they got exposed and they played a very dynamite team in the Eagles, and that's what happened. Let's say the Bears went up against a very top formidable team right now, like let's say the Lions or the Eagles, for instance. Like, I can't wait. That game on Black Friday might be a very interesting test to see going up against the Eagles on Black Friday. That'll be something to watch, but big matchup for them also Sunday. Steelers team that may or may not have Aaron Rodgers, and even if he's playing, how effective can he possibly be? And the Steelers are also a tough team to figure out. So yeah, the Bears have been a very, very the word I'd say would be strange to describe them, but they're getting the job done. It doesn't matter, just get in. Just win. Now again, it may get exposed against some superior talent, but you just got to take care of business. It doesn't matter who, what, when, where, why, or how. That's all that really matters.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, okay, so the Bears are currently winning their division at 7-3. I mean, it's unlikely they're actually going to end up winning the actual. It's unlikely they're going to end up actually winning the whole division. And you're right. Winning the games is what matters. But there's also a full season that you have to play. So they're 7-3 now. But the Bears, they're 7-3 now, but they still have 7 more games to play. And unlike the teams I was describing that had a really tough schedule in the first half of the season, they played the easiest part of their schedule in the first half of the season. Like in the 7 of the last 8 games that they won, their schedule was really bad. And I'm not saying that to discredit them, but it's just obvious that their schedule just was a disaster. The best team that they played in that stretch in the last 8 games, the best team they played was the Commanders, which in fairness to the Bears is a fairly good win. They went on the road and beat the Commanders with Jaden Daniels playing.
Yeah,
and maybe they would have lost if the ball was less slippery. But in that time frame, in the games that they won, it was the Cowboys. Okay, they're not great. The Raiders, they won that game by a point. the Saints. They got cooked by the Ravens when they had Tyler Huntley as their quarterback. They beat the Bengals, who are below average. They had to come back to beat the Giants, and then they beat the Vikings. Like none of those teams by 19-17 this past Sunday. None of those wins by themselves are particularly impressive, but I guess it does say something that they were able to win those games, all of them. But their schedule gets tougher, substantially tougher.
Yes, and they had to come back in a lot of those games too that you just rattled off. They had to come back a lot.
Exactly. So in the remaining 7 games, they have to play the Eagles, the Packers twice, the 49ers, and the Lions. So the only two easy and the only easy game they have left is the Browns. That's the only game that, at least on paper, is easy. The Steelers, that might be an easy game depending on whether or not Aaron Rodgers plays.
Is that game against the Browns? Is that in Cleveland?
No, it's at home.
Oh, they are home. Okay, so I was going to say if that game's in Cleveland, might be closer than you think.
But I could definitely see the Bears, even though they're 7-3 now. It's not crazy to me that they might only win 1 or 2 more games. That could happen. Now, I'm not saying that definitely will happen. The Packers are a little bit of a weird team. They do implode at times, and they lose games that make no sense. It wouldn't stun me. Like last year, the Packers were particularly bad in their own division.
Mm-hmm.
But those are much tougher. Like the Eagles, the Packers, the Lions, and the Niners too. By the way, those are all very tough games for the Bears. Way tougher than most of the games that the Bears have played. I mean, other than the Lions, they really haven't played any great teams, really.
It's all fair, yeah. I mean, they did give Commanders when they were a little bit healthier than they were now. But no, you're right. It's been a very favorable schedule for them so far. And I wonder how many more times they can go to the well and come back like the way they've been coming back.
Yeah, and against good teams, just having the ability to come back and win games like you can against bad teams, that's just not going to cut it against the best teams.
I totally agree with you. Yep.
It's just not going to cut it. Now in terms of, I do want to talk a little bit about Jamar Chase. He spat on Jalen Ramsey and is suspended. That's for 1 game, right? So
you're right, and he is appealing. So as we do this right now, we don't know of that appeal if he won it or not, or if he's going to still be allowed to play on Sunday against the Patriots. But yeah. But
I sure hope he ends up playing because I have him on my fantasy team. I'd be pretty pissed if he can't play.
Well, he should have gotten 2 games for lying, let alone just for the actual incident. When he says that he didn't spit on him, and then there was clear evidence showing that he did.
I don't understand what it is with this new trend of NFL players spitting on each other. It's a weird. It doesn't even make sense. I've never. So you're spitting on a guy who's also just wearing a helmet. You're angry. Like, how is your first instinct to spit on somebody when you're angry? It makes 0 sense.
It makes no sense. It's a disgusting act. There's really nothing else to even say about it. It's just dumb, really. I mean,
imagine if this had happened during the COVID year. Oh my God,
it's funny because that's what I was thinking of. Was imagine if it was COVID, he would have gotten a 4-game suspension, let alone the 1 game. They would have probably bumped it up to multiple. They would have made it at least a multiple game suspension for sure.
Yeah, and I when you're the best wide receiver in the NFL, and you're so important to your team, and the Bengals are not out of it by any means in their division, how do you make such a stupid decision? Like, you have such little self-control that you end up getting yourself suspended. Like it's just so unbelievably stupid. I mean, look, they're probably not going to beat the Patriots anyway, whether he plays or not. But I mean, Joe Burrow is going to be coming back fairly soon. I think maybe in a couple of weeks, supposedly.
And that's strange because he's going to come back, and what if they're out of it by the time he comes back?
Yeah,
It's a tough thing. I mean, I know he wants to come back, and it's hard for him to say no, but Yeah, I mean, they're literally their playoff hopes are hanging on by a thread here right now because you're not winning games in division. You're falling further and further behind. Patriots are coming in red hot now. They might make it close against the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised they actually hang around on Sunday. But yeah, it's a disgusting act. I mean, there really is nothing else to say about it. I don't know what is.
It's not just disgusting; it's freaking stupid. Like
It's
unbelievably stupid.
There's a million different words you can use to describe the act. It's
yeah, yeah. I think. So I do. I do want to talk a little bit about. What was I going to say? I want to ask you about the Giants a little bit. The Giants, they just lost to the Packers. And because I don't want to talk about the Jets very much. This is one of the first episodes this football season where I'm not
much to say about them. I mean, obviously, the only thing you can talk about them would be the fact that Tyrod Taylor is going to start Sunday against the Ravens.
Yeah, which I think is a good move. But regardless, the Packers beat the Giants 27-20, and which I think this game in a weird way might say more about the Packers than it does about the Giants. Like the Packers, they're not. I don't like them as a road team very much. They lose game. I mean, they ended up winning, so it doesn't matter. But Jordan Love has not really put up very good numbers lately. He hasn't looked great.
Yeah, he's going through a little bit of a struggle. And remember, he actually got knocked out for a little bit. They had Malik Willis come in for a little bit and actually kind of gave him a little bit of a spark in that game. I know Jacobs got hurt a little bit too. But the thing with the Packers is, and I was hanging out my favorite place on Sunday with actually my one of my friends who's a huge Packers fan. He says the same thing. He hasn't been really pleased with how Jordan Love's been playing. Packers actually have quite a few players on that team, quite a few options for Jordan Love or Malik Willis, whoever it is to throw the ball to, but they just don't really have that prominent number one receiver on the team. Now, Christian Watson is back and he's working his way back. Actually had a pretty good game Sunday. Maybe he can develop into that number one receiver spot. But, I mean, since they lost Tucker Kraft, that's really where the Packers have gone to a little bit of a slump. Now, defensively, though, they're still actually very, very formidable. I mean, I know Micah Parsons he made a couple of big plays in this game Sunday, but their defense actually hasn't played bad. It's been their offense that's been the problem the last couple of weeks. But this was a big win for them. A game that they probably didn't play great. Actually, I'll take it from the Giants side here, too. I didn't think we played that bad Sunday. I thought the offensive line looked great. I thought Jameis Winston gave him a nice spark, played well, didn't make many mistakes, didn't throw the ball that much. It was really more of a ground attack by the Giants with Tracy and Singletary. And everybody wants to get on the one interception. Let's be honest, though. The interception that Winston threw, that wasn't his fault. That was Jalen Hyatt stopping his route. And that's what ultimately led to the pick. Winston played well enough to give the Giants a chance to win this game. So, I mean, it was frustrating that they lost. But, I mean, I thought I saw some good things in this team. The problem is, though, nobody wants to focus on them. They just want to focus on the trash that's been going on in the organization the past couple of weeks. But, I mean, if you look at it, there are some things that if everybody can get back, I actually think this team actually does have some players and some potential going into next year. Health is going to be a big thing too. How they draft is also going to be big. Finding the right head coach, also very, very important. And the coaching staff too, because I mean, there's no question, there's no doubt in my mind that Shane Bowen's going to be gone. He's going to finish out the season. I know I got into a big debate with some people about this. There's no difference right now if Shane Bowen is fired today, tomorrow, next week, or at the end of the season. He's going to be gone.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah, but I think everybody, Giant fans, anti-Giants media, anti-Giant fans, whoever we want to say, they're just losing their minds right now. And I'm the only calm fan that understands what's actually happening and the fact that the team has suffered some major injuries. Their defense has been a major disappointment. And the schedule has been absolutely torturous. I mean, that's ultimately the end of the day what it comes down to. If they were playing like this with a very favorable schedule, that would be one thing. But you're talking about them playing that when the season started, a winning percentage of .574, which was the toughest schedule that anybody's played in the last 5 years. And I think wins and losses don't matter. I think it's just the production that you get from some of these players.
It's better if they lose at this point.
At this point, it is, and I wouldn't mind if they had games like they had Sunday against the Packers, where the offensive line played well, the quarterback play was good, they got good run production, they got Isaiah Hodgins, who they just signed back, actually played very, very well. That's really all I can ask for at this point, is to have good production. I don't see many more wins on their schedule going forward, because now they're going to play the Lions this Sunday, which I think it doesn't even matter if Jackson Dart clears protocol and comes back. You're playing the Lions after they had a very tough game Sunday against the Eagles, which was really more on Dan Campbell than anybody else. But the Lions don't lose 2 games in a row, and you go at home. I can see the Lions putting up a bunch of points on a Sunday. So timing is a lot of this too. So
I really like the Lions minus 10.5 against the Giants.
Yeah, 10. There's some big numbers on Sunday. I think there's 3 games in the 1:00 window next Sunday with double-digit spreads. And, yeah, that's one of them. And I actually think the Giants could hang around, but you're playing the Lions off of a bad loss last Sunday. That's not when you want to be playing the Lions. So they could play well. They could even score 20 or so points, but that's a game that feels like the Lions could put up like 35 or so and rebound. So, yeah, I
think the Lions, the crazy thing is the Lions had a chance to win that game against the Eagles, and they called this terrible pass interference call against the Lions, and that really just ended the game right there.
I agree, but also Dan Campbell, who I was praising a lot before the game last week, you do know that you don't have to go for on 4th down every single time.
Yeah.
You can punt or kick field goals.
Yeah, that's Dan. Yeah.
I love Dan Campbell, but sometimes his over-aggressive coaching can cost him, and I feel like it
cost him 2 years ago against the Niners in the playoffs.
Yep. No, you're right, and it might do it again this year when you look at how the NFC as a whole, because are we really still – I mean, I know the Eagles are 8-2, but are we really sold on them? I'm sold on their defense. I'm not sold yet on their offense.
I totally agree. I'm not
to the point where I think the Cowboys could actually win that game Sunday.
It wouldn't stun me. It wouldn't stun me at all. And it's not because it's just that it's a division rivalry game. I mean, I think the Eagles would probably end up winning. I think a lot of it depends on who controls the pace of the game. A low-scoring game, the Eagles are more likely to win. A high-scoring game, the Cowboys are more likely to win. And also, I do want to talk about the Cowboys-Raiders game. That was the weirdest game I've ever seen. A super, super strange game. I won both my bets. I had the Cowboys and the over. I won the over by a hook, by half a point. The over-under was
you had it at 48.5?
I got the over-under at 48.5.
Oh, nice. Because I remember when we did it, I believe it was 49.5 when we recorded last week. And I didn't take the over. I was thinking about it, but I just didn't think the Raiders had enough offense to make it kind of a loose game. And that's ultimately what ended up happening. But yeah, you're right, though. This goes a strange game. I mean, how about the opening series where you don't have CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens out on the field? That was very, very odd.
Yeah, because they violated their curfew.
Well, hey, you know what, though? I mean, look, there are rules. I mean, you know
what? I totally agree.
So, I mean, we saw that with the Giants last week with Abdul Carter. I mean, that's what you got to do.
He was apparently sleeping in the facility.
Allegedly. Well, I don't see. There's so many different reports now, and apparently some.
I don't actually believe that that's true.
I don't either. And again, that just speaks to the volume of the anti-Giants media and stuff that we're all trying to make this a big deal. Same thing like the Scatterboo thing on Monday Night Raw. It's not a big deal.
Does it matter if he was on? Why does it matter if he was on Monday Night Raw?
Because people that are not Giant fans and the media is not pro-Giant, and they shouldn't be pro or anti anybody, just is trying to find a way to take a shot at the organization every time. That's why. It doesn't matter if he's there or not.
He's out for the year anyway.
And actually, John Cena invited all the Giant rookies to be at Madison Square Garden Monday. So that's really what it was. So people actually do their job and actually research why the hell they were there in the first place. That's why they were there. But
I'm not gonna lie though. After watching that video, like if it doesn't work out for Cam Scatterboo in the NFL, he could have a career wrestling. I mean, he really looks like a wrestler.
I mean, you know, it's not like he was a first round pick, so it's all fine. We get one good year, one good story out of it. It's fine. But yeah, no, seriously, back to the Cowboy Raider game for a second. you showed some good things from the Cowboys. Obviously, Dak Prescott continuing to put up numbers like he's Offensive Player of the Year potential. But also, the defense, actually, there are two defensive players they got. Quinn and Williams played well. Obviously, Wilson, who they got too. Their defense looked all right. So, yeah, there were some good things there. The Raiders, they don't have anything right now. Really, they don't have enough on defense outside of Max Crosby. Geno Smith looks horrible this year. Not all the interceptions are his fault, but he's tied for the league in interceptions. And it's tough because, they actually have some players on that team. Like Brock Bowers, great tight end. They've got other options like Genty maybe could develop into something. But, there's already talk about the fact that is Pete Carroll really the answer for this team? And are they going to go through another regime change there in Vegas? I don't know if he can continue to do this over and over and over again.
I think it's hard to blame this on Pete Carroll when I think a lot of it is just that their quarterback isn't good. I think that's the biggest part of the problem. And I don't really think any coach would be winning a whole bunch of games with this roster. Like I think that's probably closer to the truth.
Yeah, Geno is a system quarterback. That's really what he is. And they thought maybe bringing him, teaming him up with Carroll again, maybe could have provided a spark there in Vegas, but Geno just has not played well this year. And again, a lot of some of those interceptions, they're not all on him. He had one that went off the receiver's hands on Monday night. And look, nobody knows that more than me when it comes to quarterback interceptions going off of their own players' hands into the opposition. But still, nevertheless, he's tied for the league in interceptions, and you just can't win that way.
Yeah, obviously. And if you talk about coaching, it's like, I think ultimately they just need a new young quarterback. Geno Smith is a system quarterback, but he's also like a couple of years older now than 3 years ago when it worked out really well with Pete Carroll. So it's just like maybe Geno Smith just isn't the answer. Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly are two great offensive minds. And it's hard for me to believe that the coaching with the Raiders is the problem. Maybe I'm biased and I think I'm used to them being good being good coaches and everything, but I just find that part a little hard to believe. I think it probably has more to do with I think they need a new quarterback. I think that's probably the issue.
Well, the thing is, though, you're going to go through the draft, and who in the upcoming draft now really excites you. If we had this conversation back in September, you'd be looking at several guys. Now you're looking at maybe one or two, and I don't think the Raiders are going to be bad enough where they're going to be able to get a Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, I was going to say Fernando Mendoza, but the Raiders might not be bad enough.
That's the problem. They'll probably win another game or so. It could be even this Sunday. They play the Browns Sunday.
Yeah.
They could win that one.
Yeah, but this game was really weird. It was really weird because it's the first time I've ever seen an onside punt.
Yeah, you're right. The onside punt.
I've never in my life seen an onside punt, and that was a pretty miserable attempt. It's also the only time I've seen a team kneel with 2.5 minutes left in the game. I've never seen a pre-2-minute warning victory formation. And by the way, the Raiders still had 3 timeouts.
Yes.
They still had all their timeouts. And the Cowboys were in victory formation at the goal line. You would have thought at the very end they would have just kicked a field goal, something. That was I didn't care because I already had the over. The only thing I should have done was hedged my over-under bet at halftime. And I would have won both sides. But I didn't want to do it because it wasn't that big. It was it went up to 54.5. So I was like, it's a very narrow window, I thought.
And those who had it at 49.5 are telling an entirely different story today.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, thank God.
Hey fans, Novig is here to change the way you play. Available in 35 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and New York, Novig is America's #1 sports prediction market, and it's 10 times more profitable than traditional sports books because there's no house edge. Instead, you're betting directly against other sports fans just like yourself. Novig is also the only free exchange, which means you keep every dollar you win, whether you're putting plays down on the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, college sports, or even UFC and tennis. Novig gives you the power to pick the best odds, or better yet, set your own. Sign up today with the code ETB Network, and you'll get 1,000 Novig coins plus $5 in Novig cash, and special bonus offers like spending $5 and getting $50 back. Novig, where fans play smarter. You must be 21 years or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Moving the Goalposts is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, rubbing your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. Speaking of college football, really big shakeup in the SEC. I mean, look, Texas losing is not particularly surprising, although that game was actually not like Georgia really broke away in the fourth quarter. But, in the fourth quarter, it was 14-10 at one point. And Georgia ended up going for it on their own 35-yard line. That could have been a game changer right there. In a very Kirby Smart move. I think the thing with Georgia is that they really just have Texas's number, it seems like. Like last season, Texas, by every other way, for instance, last season, Texas had a better season than Georgia. But Georgia still beat them twice, including without Carson Beck.
I was going to say that the two games that they played each other last year were both crazy because it's not like Georgia's offense was stellar in their first meeting. That was all defense. And then in the SEC championship, you had the Beck gets hurt, I believe it was, and they still rally, come back, and win that game in overtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this year, I mean, now all the talk now is Texas done. I mean, they're going to have to probably pull off again a win against A&M at the end of the year and get some help. But no, I think they are in trouble. When you look at it, Georgia, I'm still, it's strange because they've had these games where they look like they could be had, but we've seen how well they didn't look against Bama. They had to come back big time against Ole Miss. I mean, Ole Miss almost had that game, and Georgia still had to come back. And then this one too, like you said, it was close for a little while, and then they broke away late. So, it was. I don't know about Georgia. I'm still having my doubts about them. But I think this also spoke volumes. This also spoke volumes to me about Texas.
You know what? I disagree a little bit. I am a Georgia believer. Now, I'm not convinced they're the best team in the country. I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship. But I think the expectations for Georgia were very high because we saw them as a dynasty win 2 years in a row. That because they're similar to the Chiefs, because they're not the team they once were, people are not believing in Georgia. But the truth is, if it was the other way around and they were a mediocre team for many years and then they got this good, people would be believing in Georgia. So I do believe in Georgia. I think they have flaws. But every team has flaws, and every team is going to give you reasons to doubt them. But the truth is, the only loss they have is to Alabama, which is a very good team. And they do figure out a way to win these games. They don't look good in all of these games. They didn't look great against Auburn. They didn't necessarily look great against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss is also a very good win. Ole Miss is a good team. And, the truth is, in the SEC this year, there are no easy games. Like in the Big Ten, like Ohio State has, I think Ohio State's the best team in the country, but their schedule is not that difficult so far. Like their schedule has been very easy. Who's the toughest team Ohio State played?
Texas.
Yeah, non-conference.
That was the first game of the year with Arch Manning making his first real start. Now, maybe this game at a different time of the year might be a little bit closer, but that was his first start with all the expectation on Arch that was being put on him.
That's the only ranked team they even played.
Yeah, it was the very first game of the year.
So their schedule and their remaining games, the only ranked team they even have on their schedule is Michigan. Michigan is going to be the second toughest. Michigan's going to end up being the toughest Big Ten opponent the last week of the season. So Ohio State's schedule, like I said, I think they're probably the best team in the country, but their schedule is not tough. Georgia's
one
schedule
thing I have, and as much as I have them going to the national championship this year and playing in it again, that's my one concern with them is the fact they haven't really played anybody this year. And when you look at like Indiana and A&M have had a little bit of a more challenging road, that is my one concern for them. But, you were talking also real quick about the SEC. I mean, obviously you know about Bama losing Oklahoma. What about A&M, though, coming back against South Carolina, down 30-3 at halftime? I flipped over to the Notre Dame game as that was happening, and I saw in the bottom line, and I saw about halfway through the third, it was 30-17. I flipped back, and I'm just like, okay, this is it. As much as South Carolina is known for playing spoiler, those are the kind of games that South Carolina has, too, where they, blow a 27-point lead to A&M.
And it ended up costing Shane Beamer his job.
Well, wait, you think he's going to be gone?
I think, I mean, I think it will end up costing him.
I'm surprised he's not gone already. I said that I go to my favorite bar again after the game, and there's a lot of Gamecock people there. They even say to me too, when's Beamer gone? I say Monday, and he's still there. And then of course, On3 posted something today this week about Beamer saying that South Carolina will be contending for the CFP playoff in 2026. And I'm like, yes, Shane, they'll be competing in 2026, but it will not be you with you on the helm. I think he's one of the guys that is going to be gone by the end of the season.
Yeah, and the SEC, they just have really high standards for their coaches. But the thing with South Carolina is that they seem to play A&M tough, and maybe A&M tends to look ahead when they play South Carolina. I don't know what the issue is, but they killed they killed Texas A&M last season.
Well, that's the thing about the Gamecocks is they can play spoiler and they get up for some of these big games. Like they got up for Alabama earlier in the year. That's a game that I think if that game's played last year, I think that South Carolina actually wins. In years past when Clemson was actually really, really good, they upset Clemson. They beat Tennessee a couple of years back. So the Gamecocks are known to be spoilers to these teams, and that's what it looked like it was going to be Saturday afternoon when they're up 30-3 against the number 3 team in the rankings, and then they just completely fall apart. And even if you watch that game, I know you were in Vegas last weekend, but if you watch that game late in the fourth, A&M gave Carolina a chance to come back and win that game. They had a terrible play call on the goal line there when they were about to go in for a 38-30 lead, and they just do this little pitch back where they determine it's a backward pass, so Carolina recovers it, and they have a chance to go down and score it. Obviously, they can't capitalize, but it's just like, oh man. But
and the interesting thing is, I don't think Texas is totally done yet. I mean, I think they're probably. I think they're probably. I was saying for a while that Texas's struggles, I think, were a little bit of an illusion. Not that I thought Texas was the best team in the SEC or anything close to that, but you have to remember they didn't play a home game in the SEC until Villanova. All their games are on the road. What did almost every SEC team have in common this year? They were all struggling in road games. And that was all Texas was ever playing until they played Villanova. And so I thought it was a little bit of an illusion. And the truth is, Texas is not totally done yet. I mean, I don't think they have much of a chance to beat Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is way too good of a team. But no, I don't think Texas is completely done because they do have a chance. I was listening to I remember there was on First Take, I think Stephen A. Smith, they had Paul Feinbaum on, and he was saying, Stephen A. Smith said that he has a problem with a 3-loss Texas team getting into the playoff. And I heard that, and I was like, how can you definitively say that when you don't even know who you're comparing them to? Like, that's how college football works. You're comparing one team to the other. You can't just look at the flaws of one team and assume – can you definitively say that a 9-3 Texas team is less worthy of a playoff spot than 12 other teams. Like that to me, I don't think I can definitively say that. Because one of those wins because that would be a win against Texas A&M, who's like the number 3 team in the country.
Yeah. Well, consider the source. That's just what I'll say about that. That's really what it comes down to.
I mean, I don't think it's going to matter because I don't think they're going to beat Texas A&M. But the SEC this year, if you look at the playoffs, I think you can solidly make an argument for 5 SEC teams, 3 or 4 Big Ten teams, 1 ACC team, and 1 Big 12 team. I don't want any because there doesn't have to be based on the rules. There doesn't have to be a non-power 4 team. It's just an at-large team, an at-large bid. So there doesn't have to be like James Madison getting in.
Although right now they're probably the favorites to get in there.
You think the committee, but James Madison's not even ranked.
Well, that's what happened a couple of weeks ago when the rankings came out. They had a team that was not ranked in the playoff because of the way it's formatted.
Like the fact that a team that the committee isn't even ranking can get into the playoff, like that's such a joke.
But that was the risk when they went to this format. Is that was certainly a possibility.
But they don't have to, though, is the point. Like the at-large bid does not have to be a non-power 4 team. They don't technically need to.
They don't have to, but it still could happen.
I don't know what this committee is thinking exactly, but
Notre Dame also throws a wrench in this too because Notre Dame is in as well.
Notre Dame is going to get in. I mean, some people are claiming that Miami should have the spot over Notre Dame, and I think that is just so ridiculous. I think. Some people say that the committee is like biased in favor of Notre Dame. I don't think that's true. I think Notre Dame, at least last week, was ranked right where they should have been ranked. I think it was a perfectly fair ranking.
And played great against a ranked team on the road, which is something that they've struggled to do in their past.
They blew out a ranked team on the road. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. Now, apparently Pitt, they didn't really show up for that game, but you know what? That's still that's going on the road and destroying a ranked team.
Are we really gonna boil it down to that? That's just people trying to find ways not to get them in right now. That's
look.
I mean, to be fair, I know they're closing out against Syracuse, who I think is going to be throwing in like a freshman quarterback, and then they close out the season at Stanford, which I could, by the way, want to go off on a rant about, but I'll save that for another time. Because you know why I would go off on that game, right? Against Stanford?
What do you have?
Because the game is at 10:30. Is kicked off at 10:30 at night. When has Notre Dame ever played a 10:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff?
You know what though? It's playing against Stanford. I like that because I could actually watch it.
For you, it's great. For
me, it's great.
If I have a gig Saturday at night, I probably could be all right for it. But
that's the thing though. It's like a lot of people complain about oh my God, these games are starting too late, and it's like I have no sympathy for your bullshit. I sleep through the 1:00 games. All right,
no, I know. I'm just not used to Notre Dame playing a game at 10:30 at night.
Yeah, well,
just like Notre Dame playing a game on Peacock, but unfortunately, that's a sign of the times that we live in right now.
The thing is, if you compare Miami and Notre Dame, I mean, forget the number of losses because wins and losses in college football are not so black and white. I mean, outside of the fact that Miami beat them head to head, I mean, are the resumes even comparable? I mean, Notre Dame blows them out of the water in terms of their resumes. It's similar to Florida State and Alabama. Florida State beat Alabama week 1. And since then, Alabama's resume has been way better than Florida State's. Florida State's not even ranked. I think it's a similar type of it's the same thing with Miami and Notre Dame. Notre Dame should be ahead. It should be in over Miami. Now, Miami might end up even though Miami's not having a great year, I still think they're probably the best ACC team. And the committee thinks so too because they're ranked the highest.
Yeah.
And I am not a believer at all in automatic bids. I don't think winning your conference really necessarily proves anything. We've seen ACC and Big 12 winners and Pac-12 winners that weren't playoff worthy. And I think the same thing is true now. I would not in any way, if it were up to me, the playoffs, I would be in favor of, assuming Miami wins out, which they very well might not. If they might end up losing to Pitt, in which case I would change my mind. Which it wouldn't shock me if that were to happen. It would be a very Miami thing for them to
absolutely, a very Mario Cristobal kind of thing. Absolutely, and he'll
Maybe
be another
it would be
team
more
that
of a Miami
will be
thing.
done.
It would be more of a Miami thing to lose that game if they were like well on their way to the ACC championship game. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. I wouldn't be, if we're up to me, I would be in favor of having probably 5 SEC teams in the playoffs, 4 Big Ten teams, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, and Miami. I would be in favor of that. Like, I think that is, I mean, I'm a little on the fence about USC, but I'd be in favor of that before I'm in favor of putting in James Madison or Georgia Tech just because just because they happen to win the ACC championship, or whoever wins the ACC this year. I'd be in favor of that before I'm in favor of I think that those are probably the 12 best teams this year. Like the 5 SEC teams would be so far Georgia, Alabama, A&M, obviously, Oklahoma, and Ole Miss. I'd be in favor of that. Now, Oklahoma is a weird team. There's no guarantee they're going to win out. It would not, I feel like I'm not picking Missouri to beat them, but would it not be like a classic letdown spot for Oklahoma to lose that game?
Absolutely. As much as it is that they got up for Bama and beat that game, they could easily be let down against Missouri for sure.
They're a weird team because their 2 biggest wins were road games. They went on the road, They went on the road and beat Tennessee. Went on the road and beat Alabama. They're like, in a weird way, it almost seems like they play worse at home than they do on the road.
You don't usually see that in college. It's very strange. Now I know also the Mateer injury has also affected that too, but they are a very difficult team to figure out.
Yeah, and John Mateer is not the same quarterback that he was pre-surgery. He just isn't.
I think he came back too quick. That's what it feels like. Maybe
he did, but you know what? Even you know what though? Post-surgery, they went on the road and beat Tennessee and went on the road and beat Alabama. So it couldn't have been that bad of a decision.
I thought they had no shot against Bama. I was shocked that they did that. The only thing with Bama that really concerned me about that was the fact that maybe the gauntlet of the schedule was actually starting to really catch up with them.
Yeah, and also I think there's. Don't forget, last season Curtis Rourke at Indiana had the same surgery, and Indiana was not the same team after he had that surgery. Or maybe they were the same team and they just got exposed. You can argue that too because their schedule was slightly tougher. Probably a little bit of both, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit of both. Well, now Oklahoma is 8-2. I don't think that Oklahoma beat Alabama head-to-head, so that might end up putting them ahead of Alabama. Although Alabama's effectively like a one-loss team, effectively, whereas Oklahoma's effectively. And the reason I say that is because one of their losses was a non-conference game, week 1. There's not a ton of weight in that one loss. I think if Oklahoma loses to Missouri, all right, how about this scenario? Oklahoma loses to Missouri, and Texas ends up losing to Texas A&M. You have a 4-loss Texas team, a 3-loss Oklahoma team. Texas killed Oklahoma head-to-head. In that scenario, Texas should get in over Oklahoma, I think.
If the committee, well, each committee's different, but if they do what they normally would do, yes. Which is why Oklahoma should be above Bama in the current CFP rankings because they beat them. But yeah, you would have to do that. I mean, with the way they've done it before, because it's always a tiebreaker.
Because for Texas would be a 3-loss team effectively because their first loss would be a game that they scheduled, you have to incentivize those types of matchups. Whereas Oklahoma, their toughest non-conference matchup was against Michigan. So I don't really think it would be fair to penalize Texas for losing a game that they scheduled. And so effectively, two 3-loss teams. And I would say in that scenario, Texas should get in over Oklahoma if Missouri beats Oklahoma, which I'm not predicting is going to happen, but it would be such an Oklahoma thing for that to happen because Oklahoma makes 0 sense.
Yeah.
No sense at all.
Totally agree. Can't argue that. The way the committee has valued that before tiebreakers, that would be the thing. Now, would it be a difference if it was 3 versus 4 losses, though? That would be.
I don't think it should. I'm not convinced. I think the committee wants to incentivize scheduling difficult non-conference games. Those are the matchups that we want to see. And I don't think the committee is penalizing Texas very much for that. And it's not because of brand bias. It's really just because, I think the committee does a better job than people say they do. Not saying they do everything right, but I think they do a much better job ranking teams than AP does.
Yes, I'll give you that. No doubt.
I think in that scenario, if Oklahoma loses to Texas, if that happens, I think they're going to put Texas. Not only do I think they should do it, I think they will. I think they will put Texas ahead of Oklahoma. Briefly, I want to talk about this. James Franklin got hired at Virginia Tech. Interesting. There was a lot of talk about this for a while. The only thing a little surprising about it is maybe James Franklin would want a better job. Maybe he'd want to end up coaching at Florida or LSU or something like that. But I guess there's a little less pressure at Virginia Tech compared to these SEC schools. But Virginia, I'm old enough to remember when Virginia Tech was actually good.
Yeah, I exactly. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the pressure does have something to do with why he went there.
Yeah.
Because how the talk's been at Penn State, how he's had to win one, how he has not been able to beat the big team in the Big Ten for the last several years. He was 1-9. I mean, the record was horrible. It's been well documented, not only against Big Ten teams, but against top 5 teams as well. So maybe going to a less pressurized area like Virginia Tech, which, I mean, they've been all right recently. I mean, they haven't, but it's definitely a step down versus Penn State, but maybe that's what he needs. Maybe he just needs to start fresh in a new area. I think we're going to see that a few times with a few of these coaches at the end of the year, because there's going to definitely be some more hirings and firings that are going to happen in the offseason. Season ends. So.
All right. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. This was Moving the Goalposts. I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. We will be back next week. See you guys then.
All right. We'll see you, folks.